From afar, this, my new boat, looks pretty similar to my last boat, but this is the Stabicraft 2350 Ultra Center Cab. It's an entirely new hull, and from using my last boat and previous boats, combined with the collective knowledge of the guys at Stabicraft, Yamaha, Furuno, and all of our suppliers, we have combined everything to create what I believe is my greatest boat yet, the Swordfish Mojo 2. And what I'm about to do right now is take you through this boat, show you all of these clever refinements that all add up to making your day out on the water fishing just that little bit better, or even a whole lot better. Simple case of hitting joystick, and now I'm going sideways. You've got to go and pick up your mate. Beautiful engineering like that. I just love it. Download weather. This has given me a visual representation of chlorophyll. We get a graphical analysis of what's happening with the current out there as well. 5 game fishing rod and reels in the bait board. A cold storage bait chiller at the back of the boat. Up the front here, look at this space. A complete full second helm station, high definition. I drop a lure or something over the side, I can see it going down. I hit my drift point, and instead of being pushed out to sea with the wind, I'm going to move along this ledge, and I'm going to be able to get a few casts in. See, the engines are working, and we're just crabbing our way sideways along this ledge. Crisp, icy cold Swordfish Mojo on tap. Hot steak and cheese pie out of the pie warmer. I just don't know whether to watch the live cricket going on here or watch the lures.
I saw the best.
How good. From fishing inshore in the shallows to right out to those big swordfish and everything in between, you're going to really get to see how the interplay with everything that I've done here works. And you may like to apply some of the features to your own boat, because between myself and Stabicraft, we've done all of the thinking for you. Okay, doke, we're going to kick this whole thing off with just a quick walkthrough of the boat. And that's really just to give you a bit of an idea of all of the features on this boat and how we've laid it out. But then from there, we're going to really drill into a whole lot more detail. And the best way to do that is if we do it in segments. We're going to put chapter markers in the video so you can find all of the segments. And the segments are going to be the outboard setup and hull performance and how they work together. We're going to be looking at the fishing setup on this boat. A whole lot of detail that just makes it better for fishing. We're going to be looking at the technology and marine electronics as well. There's a whole lot to cover there. And we're just going to be looking at layout, storage, and just some clever innovations that just make boating a whole lot better. And well, while you're here and we're starting at the back, we've got these bad boys. Twin 4-stroke 150 horsepower Yamaha engines. Of course, we'll take a closer look at those, how they're performing, fuel burn, helm master, all of the cool stuff with them. You'll notice this cockpit here, high sides, and it's a lot more closed in at the back than the last one. And that's because I'm utilizing the space with twin live bait tanks. I've really specced up my rigging area as well, which we'll cover in more detail in the fishing section. U-deck right throughout on the sides of the boat, at the back, walk around and flooring. We make our way through past our Icetech storage here, inside to the helm. Now, of course, it is the Ultra Center Cab, the Ultra bit being the forwards facing screen. My last boat was the first Ultra Cab that I owned. I wasn't convinced when I took it on. Now I will never go back. Look, here we are, middle of the day, sun is beating down. I'm full shade. The visibility is amazing. With that angled back screen, it would be like an oven in here. So I'm totally sold on this. I'm gonna give you, there's some fruit. There's some fruit on this dashboard, which I'm gonna take you through. And I've not got just one helm station. Out here, I've got a complete full second helm station where not only can I drive the boat completely from here, I can control everything on those front screens from a little controller back here. But I'm getting excited. I don't want to go too much into the electronic stuff till we get to that segment. This is typically how I'd have the cockpit set up for a regular day's fishing. I've got my two 90-litre Icetech bins. I can carry ice in one, ice and drinks, beers, and I can have my catch in the other one, but it's kind of modular. So I could also do this. Now, I've lost 90 litres of cold storage by losing one of my Icetec bins, and that's because I've come across these things. Bean bags, they are wonderful on the boat. It stalls away in under the second helm. I just like to kick back with a beer in the bean bag, and it's an amazing angle perspective to look back at the lures. It's just another way of gaining a little bit of extra seating. We've still got our seating on this side over here, and you might say, well, you've lost all of that cold storage, but look at this. These Shimano insulated kill bags, I've got 2 of these on board that just fold up neatly up under the front bunks, so you've got the cold storage when you need it, but you don't have that rigid bin that's in your road in the meantime. So like I say, an example where I might be going out game fishing and I'm thinking, well, I'm probably going to tag and release my marlin or my swordfish. You get yourself a yellowfin, grab one of your bags of ice. I can have 4 bags of ice, put it in there, and we've got space in underneath the overhang of the live bait tank and the rigging station to keep a plenty decent sized fish, and I've got 2 of these bags. So it just gives a little bit of flexibility and allows me to maximize the space that I do have on the boat. There's still some other configurations we can go with. I mean, depending on what I'm doing, I might want to come out and do this. And those of you with a keen eye will recognize this thing from a previous boat. I have brought it back. My self-made mobile beer on tap system, and crisp, icy cold Swordfish Mojo on tap. I don't know what it is about tap beer, and you just want to make the moment just that little bit extra special with the tap beer. And of course, it goes perfectly hand in hand with a perfect temperature hot steak and cheese pie out of the pie warmer. Cold beer, hot mince and cheese pie. I just don't know whether to watch the live cricket going on here or watch the lures.
That's not a bad strike. We've talked up the bowling.
How good.
Talk up the batting on that one. Absolutely launched.
Tell you what, as much as I'd love to be drinking this beer and eating a hot pie, at the moment, of course, that's not what this is all about. This is a serious boat, and I'm going to show you some of the serious features on this boat. And it wouldn't be professional of me to be drinking this beer right now, would it? Because there is a whole lot of stuff that I'm going to show you. So we're just going to carry on up the side of the boat here onto my walk around. It is an ample walk around, and now that I've had this centre cabin style boat with the walk around, losing the width inside the cabin, which you are compromising internal space, for me, it is way worth it to have this. It means I can fish 360 degrees around the boat, and I can move around it really easily. I've got this bow rail system, which means as I'm coming forward here, I'm hands-free. I've been up here casting top water for kingfish, hooked a fish, need to move, but my mate's hooked up down in the back corner. I've been able to reach through here and drive. I could claim it as something I thought of, but it's just a happy coincidence and something that I learned on the fly. Anyway, up the front here, look at this space. Different from the last boat, we've got an integrated light bar. Now this has been built so that you get no light deflection at night coming back through your screen. So many boats, I don't know why they do it, they put their light bar up on the roof. You flick that up on at night, it just lights up your bow rail, bounces back in your face. Idiotic. Why would you do it? Between the low sheen of the powder coating and the shroud around it, it not only protects the light, but you don't get any light bounce back, but it still acts as a decent barrier you can really lean into when you're fishing up here. Another innovation which I absolutely love, and part of it was problem solving with the guys at Stabicraft. I do a lot of launching where you might not necessarily have a jetty, whether that be off a beach or a boat ramp that doesn't have a jetty. You've got to go and pick up your mate. There's a safety catch there, it's all inbuilt into the boat, one hand operation, click. That is a robust, practical ladder, and I don't know about you, man, but beautiful engineering like that, I just love it. And also while I'm standing up at the front of the boat here, a couple of rod holders in here. They're mostly housing topwater rods, so when we're out trolling and there's yellowfin about, they can be loaded up here with stick baits, ready to run up and grab and cast them. But they've also been set up so you can have a bent butt rod in there and it clears up and over the rail, so you can have a live bait out over the front while you're sword fishing, and it just again gives more versatility and more options. Underneath me, Maxwell drum winch. drum winches, not like a windlass that twist up and jam all the time. They're grunty, they're strong, you don't need to cleat off when you put your anchor in or out, it's just easy. I've got a hatch in the front here. I crack that when I'm trolling to let some air flow through. I've got extra hatches on the roof there to let even more airflow through. I've got my radar and I want to tell you about this, the tech in this, but you'll see that in the technology and electronics section. And while I'm up here looking back, of course, there's the rigger setup and configuration, the interplay with those and the rocket launchers, the options that gives me there. And I'm also spying my Starlink and my PepWave antennas, which means I am connected wherever I am. And because of that technology, I know at least 345,000 of you were watching a live stream as we were catching a 300 kilogram bluefin tuna right up against the rocks. And you're going to be seeing more of that on this boat, the live action, because of that connectivity that we've got. So that's something to look forward to more and more in future episodes of ITM Fishing that you'll see right here on Ultimate Fishing TV. But that is just the quick walkthrough right now. Next up, we're going to dive into our next segment where you're going to get some of those juicy details that I know you want. In this section right now, we're going to look at the fishing setup on this boat. I mean, ultimately, the whole boat is set up for fishing, whether it be the electronics or the layout. It's all about making things better when you're out fishing. But there's some specific little things that I've done that I'm sure you'll be interested in. Now we're just going to start at the back of the boat and I'm just going to talk about things as I see them. Tuna tubes, I have these on all my boats. For those of you that don't know, they're for keeping tuna alive, because tuna won't live in a live bait tank, but they'll live fine in the tuna tubes. The difference with these tuna tubes, they're angled slightly more and they're deeper than previous. Live bait tank, again, bigger than my last live bait tanks, and these lids are custom lids. Most live bait tanks you come along have little plastic handles, catches, and they're basically an off-the-shelf product. Not these. Stabicraft have made these out of this polyethylene board, custom shaped to give a wider, bigger access, nicely sealed, and they clip down. One of the things I like about it, you've got a half clip up, so you can have your live bait attached to a leader without pinching a leader. So you can have a live bait ready to go in your tuna tube, a live bait ready to go in this live bait tank, and over this side, another live bait tank. But this one is a live bait tank with a difference. It's plumbed up the same as a live bait tank. To the eye, the first thing you're going to say is, well, it doesn't have a window. Why didn't you put a window in this one? That is because this is not just a live bait tank, it's also an insulated box. Now I can have my pre-rigged baits, burley, anything that I want cold and immediately accessible to my bait station can be in here. It's kept nice and cold. At the end of the day, there's going to be a bit of fish juice and everything in there. Turn the bugger on, wash it out. So it's a dual purpose backup live bait tank, but also like a cold storage bait chiller at the back of the boat. Bait board, bait station. This one's wider than my previous. A channel the whole way around. Now, you've got to have a really good interplay between stopping muck and slop dribbling out into your boat, but you also don't want a high front edge, because of course, when you get to that crucial stage of filleting, you want to be able to get your knife flat. As you can see here, we've designed this so a knife blade can cut flat along there without any obstruction, but any spillover goes into the channel and into these drains. Now, in the past, we've had issues with scales and bits of backbone and chunks blocking up in these drains. With these, we've gone to extra big pipe. It's all hidden, so everything flushes out over the back. No blood dribbling down through drain holes, splattering on the motors. It's just a little refinement that's made it a whole lot easier. Up here, plenty of slots for my knives. We've got the Stabicraft cup holders, which are everywhere around the boat. Yes, I might put a cup in there occasionally, but you put all sorts in them. Look, I've got a venting needle in this one for releasing snapper. I've got some of my rubber bands, which I use for all sorts of stuff. And I've just got a bit of high density foam up here, which is where I keep all my bait needles. And this beautiful little bit of kit here, which is a leader holder. Now, a lot of people use two different thicknesses of leader. Over here, I've got a bit of 25-pound fluorocarbon, which I use a lot for soft baiting. So if I want to get myself a little bit of leader, I just pull out the amount that I want, cut off the length, and there it is, and the next bit's ready to go. Over here I've got the rigging thread that I use. Same thing, I can pull that out to stitch up a bait, rig a live bait, and it's all right there at hand's length. And I tell you what, as I'm putting this back in, I keep all my tools down this end. These Shimano hard cases, and I've got more of these hard cases with different types of gear in them. So I've got a slow jig box, I've got a soft bait box, I've got the different types of fishing that I'll do stowed away in the drawers. The ones that I'm using on the day obviously live right here where I can get them. The ones that stay here the whole time is my bait catching kit and my sinkers, because I'm always catching bait. Leaders stacked on one side. Oh, and this stuff, Corrosion X. Any tackle that I've used throughout the day. And so like I'm using bait jigs. They get salty, a lot of people will put them back in the box. No, don't do that. You're gonna rust not just the gear that you've used, but the gear that's in your box. So at the end of the day, all of the stuff that I've used, hooks and everything, go in the cup holder. When I'm soaping the boat down, a bit of the soap goes in there, it drains out. When they're dry, pull it out, give it a little spray. You can see here, it's already got on my hook file, give it a spray, and it all goes back, and you get a bit more longevity out of it. So just a small tin is something that I keep in my tackle drawer. And what I really like about this one is it's watertight, and you've got these high quality latches. Again, they're made of hard polyethylene plastic. And while we're down the back of the boat, I've got to show you this. Very cool. Okay, so you're getting covered in blood and guts. Lean on the button. Look at that. Wash your hands. Clean hands. Got this button here you lean on with your thigh. Simple thing that makes things a little bit easier. Now when we get on to the nitty gritty of how we fish, rod holders. Now for a boat this size with as much fishing gear that I carry, it may seem like a modest amount of rod holders, having just 3 on each side. Well, in fact, 4 on the port side, but we'll get to that. Okay, so it's because I'm running again the Evolution 360 rod holders. They've been a game changer for me. In a typical scenario, I might need 4 or 5 rod holders on 4 or 5 different angles to do all the kinds of fishing that I like to do. And even then, it changes day to day. So basically, you clip your rod in. Now, on this 30 degree, I've got a nice flat angle, which gives me great reach. So if I'm using an electric reel and I want plenty of clearance because I'm fishing out of the rod holder with an electric reel, perfect. If I'm trolling game fishing, I can swivel my rod 90 degrees. And if we look at the correlation with that, with say the next rod that might be trolling a lure, we've got 2 different clean lines. Now, as I swing the outriggers out and we start clipping on lures and we start looking down the lines, this will all become clear. And you'll see ways that you can adapt this sort of setup to your own boat. Oh, and while we're at it, look at that. That's something that I've never had before. 5 game fishing rod and reels, all sitting neatly in the bait board. Previously, I've only been able to get 4. Now I can get 5, and they just look sexy. On this side, deck wash. Deck wash is a deck wash. It works, it's handy to have, most boats have them. And then we come up here to the rocket launcher. Again, it's another area that's been powder coated that previously hasn't been powder coated. And it's good because, particularly with your big heavy rods that go up there, you just chip your paint or whatever you've got on there. The powder coating's so hard and it looks cool, right? 11 rods fit up there. One thing I will point out, if you're gonna do an outrigger setup, which we're about to get to like mine, when you've got your outriggers up, you don't get the use of these outside rod holders. So that is something to be aware of. Reasonable compromise for me because I do love my outrigger setup, which I can show you right now. We've got videos on how to set up your outriggers. These ones I've done a little bit different, but the key component to outriggers being set up well is that they can be tight when you're in the back steaming position. You can see them like this. I've got them set up on the angle, the exact angle that I want them on, and they're tight. They're not going to wave around. These are very stiff outriggers, and I should point out they are ocean blue outriggers. These are the 18-foot ones. They're incredibly stiff. My prerequisite for an outrigger is that it is stiff and it's hard. No one likes a big, long, floppy rigger. You want it to be erect the whole time. But at the moment you can see that is locked in, they're back, the boat's ready to steam, but when I want to fish, and this is what I love so much, look at that, kabam. They're out, they're locked in, they're tight, and they're ready to fish because I've got the perfect pivot point here I'm running tag lines, particularly with long riggers. You're not having to pull the clip down every time you get a knockdown, a bite or a trip out. And just the way that I'm fishing now, the fishing system that I'm using, I'm trying not to have so much of a drop back. Of course, all of those updates, if you haven't seen them already, they're going to be on Ultimate Fishing TV. And then at the end of the day, you don't want to be up there on a rolling sea trying to lift your outriggers down and try and get them stowed as the boat's rocking around. It's time to head home, twist the handle on these drop spacers, they're locked in, and I'm ready to steam back in. I've got this dredge boom, and on it I've got the big Beastmaster 12K. Now, a lot of dredge booms, you need pulley systems and everything just to be able to get the leverage to haul it in. This thing is so grunty you don't need to. I can just get that dredge hauling in while we're still up on trolling speed. That's going to rip itself the whole way in. Now, with dredges, particularly on trailer boats, you've always got that issue. It's what to do with that dredge while it's hanging out there. Well, this is where the 360 rod holder is great. I push the button in, I can swing that forward, and I can quite simply just lift that dredge into the boat. It's going to sit in my walk around there, and now I can get back to the action, clearing the gear, fighting a fish. It was really that simple. The grunt of the Beastmaster 12K, the dredge boom, coupled with the Evolution 360 rod holder, that has got to be the best setup you're going to get for a dredge on a trailer boat. With the 2 live bait tanks and the 2 tuna tubes, 3,600 gallon per hour pumps, and I've got 2 of them. Now I can run both live bait tanks, both tuna tubes off 1 pump, and then from there I can just direct where the water goes. So if I want both tuna tubes going, very simple. Open that tuna tube, open that tuna tube. Now I've got water going to both tubes. I want this tank going as well. I open the fill and I close the drain. Now you'll see I've gone to lengths to label it drain and fill and give a mark for the open. And that is because I don't know what it is about guys when they get on boats and I say go and open that valve, they'll close it, get all bloody complicated. So I've labeled it really cleanly, and the takeaway point from that is redundancy. If one pump fails, I know that I can just turn the other pump on and it is going to be able to pump everything on this boat. Another thing, you can't see it right here because it is underwater, my underwater lights. Hella amphibians, they're really bright. LEDs, they're shooting out at my stainless steel props, which gives a strobing, flickering effect. Another really cool thing is I can turn them on down the back here because I'm down the back and I want to see what's going on underwater. I can turn them on here, or I've got a reciprocating switch for them up on my light panel. But I don't want to get into that because it's some really cool tech that I'm going to cover when we look at our electronics and technology on the boat. And while I'm standing in this part of the boat, this here is probably the most exciting thing on the boat for me in terms of practicality fishing. In an application where, say, we're fighting a fish, I can actually use the steering wheel and the 2 engines, but also right here, within just an arm's reach, we've also got the Houndmaster joystick. Now this isn't just for spinning the boat around, driving sideways, doing all of that cool stuff. You can set drift points, you can do your fish point, stop on the spot, and it's all reachable right from here where you're fishing. I've got a clear live view of what's happening on my sounder here, and I can be fishing and I might be wanting to monitor other things like my side scan, all of that sort of stuff which we're going to be looking at when we go into the electronics, and I can control everything from this one spot, including fighting a game fish. So I'm inside the rail and we've worked on the lines of the boat and the access so everything can be done from this single point. When I spin around the other way, we're puka fishing. I've got my 360 rod holders. I can keep an eye on the rod tip, sword fishing again, and I can be using my controls to back up, sit on spots. I can be using my Houndmaster. All of these features you'll see when we're actually using them, and I'll be talking you through how I use them in a real world scenario because you're going to be seeing plenty of it. There's nothing gimmicky about any of this. All of this stuff has been set up to work, and it does work. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to showing you the boat's full potential as I put it through its paces on all kinds of fishing. From fishing inshore in the shallows to right out to those big swordfish and everything in between. you're going to really get to see how the interplay with everything that I've done here works. The high combing sides when you're leadering fish, so you can get your toes close to being underneath you when you're fighting a fish. All of that stuff has been thought of, and you may like to apply some of the features to your own boat, or if you really want to make it simple, everything you've seen so far and are about to see in this video, you can go to your Stabicraft dealer and just say, I want the Matt Watson setup, because between myself and Stabicraft, we've done all the thinking for you. In this section right now, we are going to take a look at some of the layout and setup of this boat, and I'm going to show you all of the details and why we have done it. I'm going to start down the back here. One of the bits of feedback I gave the team at Stabicraft about their cleats was, well, I love the cleats. They're really grunty, really strong, serve their purpose of tying the boat up really well, but they were sitting up on top of the coaming. So they could foul lines when you're leadering fish, and we even had instances when you're fighting big game fish, swordfish alongside the boat, they go crazy, and the rod was getting hooked in underneath the cleat. Watch the rod! So they've made this really nice refinement, so you've still got really easy access in there for tying the boat up with ropes, but they're not going to foul your lines and get in the road when you're fishing. Now the next thing, I can't claim any credit for at all. This stuff here is like a really hard urethane or polyethylene. It's the same stuff that they put on skid trailers. So if you can imagine, if it's good enough to skid your boat onto, it really is hard, but the styling of it looks bulletproof, but the practical nature of it is that it's really going to take the knocks. And let's face it, if you're really serious about fishing, particularly when you're messing with big fish, you're going to be taking some knocks. And speaking of taking knocks, you know, I like this boat. I'd like to think I could keep this boat looking as shiny and beautiful as it is right now. And what's going to help me do that is the body liner coating system that I've got put on it. It's like a clear coat that gets applied after the boat's been painted, after the wrap's gone on. You can even see down here, speaking of the wraps, my mates at Brave Design have done an amazing job. If you like the way this boat looks, and it does look amazing, Glenn and his team at Brave Design have done an amazing job. But what I'm talking about here is you can see that this body liner clear coat has gone over not just the paint, but it goes over the wrap, and it gives the wrap like this really embossed, awesome looking feature, and it protects your wrap as well. So the body liner is like having stone guard on your car, but it's not hard, so it doesn't flake and chip like stone guard does. It's UV resistant, so you don't get any yellowing. Doesn't matter how long it's on there for. And another thing, it's chemical resistant. Things like sunblock, when you're filling your boat petrol, not with the body liner on it. It just protects it. And it also makes the boat look better because it has got industry-leading gloss levels. Now, I didn't even know you could measure gloss levels. So there you go. I can't go past this area here, which is the second helm station. A lot of design hours has gone into this. You'll see we've got this little wee steering wheel here. Really, that was the only way we could get full helm function. Basically, anything I can do up at that front helm in terms of driving the boat, I can do back here. We've cantilevered it out off the side of the boat. That means we've got our 90-litre Icotec storage that can slide nicely and underneath. And just by putting on this really stylish looking upholstery, it means it looks good. You pull it out, you've got some seating. I've got a glove compartment built in here where I keep my wiring gloves. All of the stuff that I need to grab in a hurry sits in this little glove box. And we've got some nice little hidden away storage areas, which I've put some clears over just to keep everything neat and tidy. And if I take the bin out of the road, tucked quietly in underneath here is this thing, a pie warmer. That's right. You can see the pie crust in here. It's probably the most used item on this boat. It takes 8 steak and cheese pies that come out perfect every time. Now at the top of the second helm station is this table area. Now it's one thing having storage areas everywhere, but you've got to have some working area where you can put stuff, whether it's pouring a hot cuppa, making a rig, or just somewhere to dump your cell phone. All of these spaces that we've got around the boat, the storage spaces, we've got U-deck in there as well. So it's a bit of cushioning and it's a little bit of grip. We've got the drawers, which are just so nice. Having drawers on your boat, and they're full-on legit soft close drawers. So just like really good hardware to make everything really nice. And of course, when you've got heavy stuff in your drawers and it gets rough, these nifty little tabs, just so you can lock the drawers. So it's just, again, eliminating another niggle. While we're in here, look at this. We had some void space in underneath here. I talked to my mates at High Tech Plastics. I just give them the measurements of the space and they make up these hard polyethylene plastic boxes that really take the knocks. Look at this. It's a place for my puka sinkers, dive weights, swordfish weights can go in there, and it just slides back in underneath there. I didn't quite like the look of it, so I sent them to Glenn, again at Brave Design, and he's wrapped them in the carbon fibre look that I've been going for. Same thing over this side. And it really just has meant that I've been able to optimise all the little storage areas on the boat. Now coming inside, but we've got the seating on this side. Stabicraft have done a beautiful job of this upholstery and making it functional as well. So this here, aside from the old bean bags, is one of the favoured seating spots on the boat, particularly when you're looking back at lures. And then we come up here and we've got the powder coating going right through. Everyone comments on it when they come into the boat, how good it looks, industrial, it's low sheen. We've got the U-deck, custom U-deck, and it's just been styled and cut for the boat, and it just looks really cool. Got like a nice little cubby hole up here. You could use it for whatever you like. It's just my go-to spot for my binos. These great little storage shelves down the side, and what I've done to utilise this space is I've found these Shimano cases which are clear. When you put stuff in storage lockers, you can't always see what you've got. This allows me to have, say, my stick baits on my other boat, bring them onto this boat and know exactly what I've got. We've got 2 seats up front. The helm chair is on suspension seating, and it is the best suspension seating that I've used. I've had all sorts of different breeds. It is really comfy, and some suspension seatings can kind of spring you up in the air. This doesn't. Got my subwoofer in there in the bottom of the plinth. And I guess while I've just segued onto that naturally because I saw it, Fusion stereo system, 4 speakers, subwoofer, amp. If you don't know me by now, love to rock the tunes, like to have a few tins, helps raise the fish. We've got our air vents, they're another addition. I crack these open on days like today when it's stinking hot. You can just let some airflow come through when you're trolling, which is great. Up here again, this powder coated central piece. Now this is a tray that allows all the cabling to be run neat and tidy. We've got recessed lights, I mean features that you'd see on a big sport fishing boat, like just the finishing on this, and handrails front to back. Handrails on the sides, handrails up on the dash. Again, U-deck on all of our flat spaces, places where you're going to put your phone, put down your binos. It's all been thought of. These are something that I asked for. Your 12-volt sockets. They're Scanstrut ones. I've got my cigarette lighter socket, so if I want to plug a spotlight in there, USB-C, USB 2, and they sit under this cover so they're not getting all corroded and shitty. And then up the front here, Stabicraft came up with this concept a while ago. This folds out. Voila, you've got full-size V-berth. This primarily is a day boat. What this gets used for on this boat is when that's folded up like that, I've got now a padded room where I can just throw everything. The closest thing to grab a hold of is my emergency grab bag. Okay, so this is going to be another quick little diversion too for the setup of the boat because safety is important. And what I've done is I've got everything that I need inside this bag. So I'm just going to pause it there for a second and bring you outside. Now, first off, this is a floatable padded grab bag. PLB3, this is like a personal locator beacon. That's additional to my ePerv. That's kept inside here. I've got 8 life jackets, and I have discovered these things. They are spin lock life jackets, and there's a real special feature about this particular one that I'm wearing right now because it's got one of these inside it. So if the worst happens, you end up in the water, the moment you pull the tag here to deploy your life jacket and inflate it, it automatically starts transmitting your signal via AIS. Their location pops up on my screen instantly. And not just my screen, every boat that's equipped with AIS can go directly to that person. Enough on the safety, we're gonna get back to where we left off. Okay, so up in here, if you were overnighting, you've got everything folded down. Yeah, there is enough room where you could sleep 2 people up here. You can open the hatch up, you've got access in and out. Right here is the upholstery that comes with the boat. These are side curtains that just clip straight on, which actually kind of extend the side of the cockpit out a little bit more in conditions where you've got spray coming over the side. I've got the full back cover, so you can completely enclose this boat and make it quite cozy. Come back out here, show you through some of the improvement. Oh, I'm looking at one of them right now. 4 rods up on the ceiling. I've had my boat hooks and tag poles kept up here. At the moment I've got a jig rod, had live bait rods. That is just great use of space. The hood lining, everything comes together and the space has been used so well in this boat. Well, I've fired up those 2 beautiful twin Yamaha 150 horsepower 4-stroke engines. You can hear them purring away behind me. Right now we're going to look at the hull performance, the outboard performance, and all of the technological features and the Helmmaster system, which is proprietary to Yamaha. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. I will never have a boat this size again without Helmmaster. It is that good, and I'm about to show you why I love these Yammies and I love the setup of this boat. Let's go. Up here on the helm now, ready to give this boat a bit of a blast to show you what it can do. Obviously twin engines, so twin remotes. When I'm running, as in just steaming, going somewhere, the first thing I do is I select single lever. So they're just going to stay at the same revs, and I'm just going to use this one lever and treat it as though it's like one engine. Because essentially when I'm running, it really is. I'm not using the 2 engines independently. And as I go through the revs, of course the engine, the hull and the Zipwax, they're all going to work together just to get the boat easily and smoothly up onto the plane. There we go. I tend to give it a few more revs to get it up, and then once it's up, I pull back the revs. So I've got a clear visual display on the revs that I'm running. Now, whenever I'm in the boat, whether I be trolling or steaming, I'm more interested in the feel of the boat and the sound of the boat. So I'm monitoring revs almost more so than I am speed. On my Furuno here, I can give that a swipe, and straight away I get data on what's happening with my fuel burn and my speed. And I'm at 0.5 of a nautical mile to a litre. With a little bit of adjustment to my trim, that should settle at about 0.6 of a nautical mile per litre. Now, I do have my litres per hour activated as well, so I can keep an eye on that. But really, if you're travelling from A to B, the most relevant bit of data is this bit here. How many miles you are getting per litre of fuel. And you can see there you go, I'm getting to like 0.65. Basically I'm wanting to get that number as high as I can, and that's telling me that my trim is optimizing my fuel economy. So what I will say about this setup with the twins, I've got a big advantage in safety. I can put this boat up on the plane on one engine. Now that's a big plus for getting home and not just having to crawl home like I would have to with an auxiliary engine. On the downside, when I had the single engine, the single 300 horsepower on my last boat, it was more economical than this. I did know this when I made the decision to go to the twins, and basically when you've got 2 outboards, you've got more drag in the water. So it stands to reason that the economy isn't going to be quite as good as having a single engine. The thing is, modern outboards today, they're all pretty reliable. If you were to put them all on a reliability scale, Yamaha's going to be right at the top. And that was one of the big things for me to originally go with Yamaha. But the real kicker was the technology, the Helmmaster. It's just got me excited and it makes my fishing better. So I tell you what, I'm just going to make a turn here and then we can start talking about how the boat handles. So we're just going through a turn now. I've not had to slow down, and you'll notice that we're holding our speed really nicely. The boat outboards aren't cavitating, the boat's gripping. Now, there's 2 things that are making that boat corner so well. Number 1, the Stabicraft hull. The guys spend so much time on getting the hulls working in all sea states. Beam on, punching into the sea. The other factor there is the outboard setup. The Yami dealer and the Yami agent that set this boat up, they've adjusted the height, they've adjusted the props for maximum grip in the water, and it sticks to the water, it really does. So we'll just pull into a turn, and you see, I'm hands-free on that. A lot of that's to do with this incredible steering too, which is all part of the Yamaha system. There's no feedback, it's electric over hydraulic steering. And even while I'm burning around here, it almost seems ridiculous to me that I can just hit heading hold, and now the boat's going to drive itself. I can set a course on my plotter, hit go, and it will follow that course. Now, because of the AI that's in my Furuno, if there's an obstacle in my way, it will adjust the course to go around. And a cool thing about the autopilot is to turn the autopilot off, you don't need to go scrambling for a button. If you see something and you want to turn, you just turn. Autopilot's turned off. Non-feedback steering, the boat just handles so beautifully. And that leads into, I guess, talking about the hull. So this is a completely different hull from my last boat, the Stabicraft 2250. We've got more volume and more V in the bow. Instinctively, what that says is it's going to give you better punch through a heavy sea. It does do that. Of course, when we're underway like this, the benefit of the Stabicraft chine that gives it the famous stability is less in effect because we're lifted up out of the water. Now that's where my zip wakes are doing that work. So we're not really compromising by getting the extra punch and heavy sea capability of this hull. We're not really compromising roll because of these zip wakes. As I turn, the zip wakes are adjusting. Now another really cool thing with the zip wakes is quite often when you're on a long run, you might have a heavy sea coming in on one side. Now all boats, particularly hardtop boats, heel into the wind. Now that's what you don't want them to do, because that means your chine is going to be banging against the way that the chop's coming in. Well, the zip wakes are preset to have us level. But when you've got a big sea coming on this side, you actually want to be slightly away from it. So while I'm in auto mode, I just roll the boat that way. Now what it's telling me, I'm still in auto mode, but it's going to give me 1.4 degrees of tilt that way. Now you can see the attitude is making it lean away a little bit. So it is really that simple. And the same goes for pitch. I've got this little wheel here. If I want to ride a little bit more nose down, I just roll forward. But honestly, for probably 90% of the time that I'm using these trim tabs, I hit auto and I forget about them for the day. Coffee. I mean, there's a whole lot of new stuff on this boat, and while the hull is a new design, I guess the least surprising thing for me is that it goes awesome. I've headed over here because I'm looking for some rough water, which a fisherman says never. Let's open her up and see what she does. That fuel economy is not so good anymore. There goes 30 knots, 35 knots. Trimming right up, 37 knots, 38.8, that's as high as I've got. And ease it back off. Yeah, my fuel economy's come back to 0.6. It was down to a not so great 0.3. And yeah, this is what I would call cruising speed. Sitting at 22.7 knots at the moment. Comfortable, good harmonics, 400 litres underfloor fuel. So with that current fuel burn, that'll give me a range of around 220 nautical miles. That was really quick maths, but yeah, over 200 nautical miles. Now another very cool piece of technology, which utilises both the autopilot on the Helmmaster with the TZ Touch and some new technology in here. Now, quite often, if we want to get from A to B, we'll set up a route. We're looking at the map here, we've got a whole bunch of islands and channels in front of us. We want to get over to here, to this point. Which is the fastest way? Let some AI that's built into this work it out. I'm going to choose a starting point where we're going to start from, which is where we are, but where I want to get to is over here. Now I'm not sure the fastest route or the safest route, but I'm just going to touch it. I actually thought it would be faster to go that way, but AI has told me that I'm going to need to cut through a little gap here. If I touch that and say start nav, I turn on my autopilot onto track point. The track point is activated, and now the boat is going to follow the fastest, safest course that's been drawn on there by the artificial intelligence inside my TZ Touch. And right at the moment we're heading for some rocks, So this will be a good example to see whether it knows what it's doing or not. I'm hands-free and I'm really hoping that it's going to turn real soon. And it's zoomed in on our mark, and here we go. We are following the route around the corner, and you'll notice here, as we come close to an obstruction, just like I guess Google Maps highlights areas of a lot of traffic or hazard, it's highlighted in red an area where we're going to be quite close to the rocks. So as much as this is really cool tech, and you've seen me do it live right now, I'm not really going to trust it implicitly. But as we come up to our next waypoint now, we should turn, so we're going to be turning away from those boats that are in front of us. And look at that, we're lining up this gap to go through the passage. I'm just going to slow the boat down now, because once again, I will reiterate, make sure you use common sense boating and don't rely on AI to get you everywhere. If you are going to be using TrackPoint to navigate your way there and have the boat drive itself, don't go anywhere for a sleep. Don't go fill up fish down the back. You should always have eyes on what's going on. But as we're talking right now, we are being navigated safely through this passage by the Yamaha Helmmaster hooked in to the clever AI inside the Furuno TZ Touch. It's pretty cool, bruh. Okie doke, I've just pulled up here just so I can show you how the Helmmaster works, or some of the features of the Helmmaster. But before I do, I'll just finish up on the remotes. Another wee button here, which is one that I use all the time, and I've got to say I'm really in love with it, is the speed controller. So when I've got the boat up on the plane, and quite often in rough conditions, if you're using your throttle, even if I'm in single lever mode, trying to get your speed just right, it can be tricky. You just a couple of little taps down on your speed controller, and you can lower your speed in 50 rev increments. So it's great when you're steaming and want to make minute adjustments to your speed. So I just leave my speed control set to RPM. I guess while we're up here, we'll look at some of the other things we can do. You can actually adjust your steer friction. Some people like a nice loose wheel that can really swing around. Others like it quite stiff, maybe if you are racing around at high speed all the time. Now the speed control, I don't just use it when I'm ripping around steaming, trying to get those revs just right, to optimize fuel burn, comfort, that sort of thing. I use it a lot when I'm trolling. So I'll tell you what, why don't we put it in gear and I'll show you. Even where we are now, let's say I'm trolling some live baits. Now when you're live baiting, the slower you go, the longer your bait is going to live. Now with both engines in gear, at the moment idling, I'm doing 2.5 knots. Now I might want to go slower than that. So one of the things I can do is I can go back to single and I can idle with just one engine in gear. But I might want to go even slower. So just by hitting down, you'll see I've got speed control activated, 600 RPM. Oh, now we're down at 80%. Now what that means is that 80% of the time the engine's in gear, and here you go, we're in neutral, 20% it's out of gear. So I'm just going to knock that down a little bit more. Say I want to go real slow. I'm right down to 20%. So now that means 20% of the time the engine's in gear, 80% it's out. So in the past, you've had to be constantly knocking in and out of gear. Well, look at this, the Helmmaster's doing it for me. I could even hit course hold to keep myself going in a direction while I'm setting a bait myself. It really is like having someone very switched on driving your boat for you. In fact, the Helmmaster does a way better job than most of my mates. And yes, you know who you are. Now before we get on to using our joystick or using fish point, and while we're still on speed control works while you're in reverse. Now why would you want to do that, you might ask? Well, I do a lot of drift fishing. So one way you can do that is if I select my station out here, I can just put the engines into reverse and just knock the engine in and out of gear. And that's just going to slow down my drift. But I can also put the boat into reverse and use my speed control. I've got exactly the same functionality on these remotes outside, and I'm just dialing it down. I can use my steering wheel here to adjust the angle and the attitude of my boat, and it's just giving me a controlled drift. And it allows me to fish without anyone on the helm, and I can just adjust that speed control up and down, and basically all that's doing is regulating the speed of my drift. So it's almost like having a sea anchor out the back that you control depending on your depth, the type of fish you're fishing for. And it's just a very real scenario, something that I use all of the time. If I was to select the joystick here and I hit the button stay point, okay, now the boat is going to stay not just on this spot, but it's going to hold this angle, which when it's windy and there's a lot of current, there's a lot going on. Yes, the Helmmaster can do it, and you can see the outboards working to hold us on this spot, hold us on this angle, but in real fishing scenarios, the mode that I use all the time, I seldom use stay point, is fish point. So now we're still going to hold on this spot, but we're going to be able to swing with the wind. And so when I'm pulling up to an area, I mark my fish on the sounder, right, they're underneath me now. I'm not mucking around putting an anchor down. I'm not trying to predict my drift, so I drift over where the fish are. I'm pretty much stopping on top of them, and I'm hitting fish point. Now, you might not always want to stay directly over where you first started, because fish move, right? So you might actually want to start moving again. Now, for drift point to work, we first need to choose where we want to drift. Because typically when you're drifting, you are at the mercy of where the wind and tide is pushing you. Now, the wind's blowing this way, my natural drift would be to blow me out away, but I want to drift along this ledge. So I'm just going to spin the boat around, and it's easier if you start the boat by putting the stern into the wind. And I've got this ledge here that I want to fish. So on my plotter, I'm just going to put the point at the other end of the ledge. I want to move the boat along that ledge, go to. So now that's set up there, I come out, I hit my drift point, and we're going to be moving our way along this ledge here. And I've got a soft bait tied on, and instead of being pushed out to sea with the wind, I'm going to move along this ledge, and I'm going to be able to get a few casts in. And I mean, it's the sun's out, it's bright, these aren't ideal wash fishing conditions, but still, it's a good demonstration on because we've got this visual reference of the rocks itself. You can see the engines are working to keep us that same distance, and we're just crabbing our way sideways along this ledge, making it really simple for me to cast a soft bait and work this ledge. Yep, got them on. Even though these are not ideal conditions for soft baiting along a ledge, I set up the drift point along this ledge, 2 or 3 casts in, and we've hooked a snapper. And I've been able to do that just with the help of the Helmmaster. But next up, we're going to take a look at the joystick and the joystick operation and how that can be a real game changer in maneuverability when we're fishing, particularly when we're fighting fish, but also bringing this boat or any boat equipped with Helmmaster into dock. Simple case of hitting joystick. In real basic terms, you can just do with the joystick what you want the boat to do. So if I want the boat to go forward, in gear, and I'm going forward, okay? Same, reverse. Now, we don't just have directional ability, we have rotational ability. So I can just twist the joystick, okay? And the boat starts to twist. But we can also twist and do a direction at the same time. So I'm gonna twist and then point the boat that way. So I'm rotating around, the blue marlin I've got on's going that way, and now I'm going sideways because I'm pushing the remote controller sideways. And some years ago, if you'd told me that you could get a trailer boat and make it go sideways, I would not have believed you. But all the technology's in there, you don't really need to think too much. What I would say is that you do have to get a feel for the control. It's not, I would use the term feathering to get used to how to use the joystick. So note then too, I was going sideways, but I was going sideways into the wind as well. Applications where I use the joystick, for one, docking. I know a lot of people are anxious about coming into a dock. Well, the joystick makes things a whole lot easier. I do like to use my dual controls most of the time coming into the dock, but there are instances where you need to pull straight out sideways, just because it's the easiest way to get in or out, or you just want to look cool at the dock. When I'm fighting a fish, for instance, I could be here fighting a fish, I could be fishing top water, and where it can be time consuming and a bit of a niggle to use the remotes and the controls, I just need to go that way a bit. I can reach over with one hand, I can push sideways, I can move forward. I can twist the boat and make it do all the things that I want it to do with one hand. It's a pretty incredible bit of technology. If there was one feature out of all of this setup, it would probably be the fish point. It really is like having a very switched on person on your boat that knows how to maneuver a boat, drive a boat, and hold a boat exactly where you want it. And that is the Houndmaster that I will always have from this day forward. Right now we're going to take a look at the electronics. There is a lot to cover here. There's been a lot of advancements in technology. Most of it's laid out on this dash here that really is going to make a big difference to the way I boat, give me more peace of mind and catch more fish. And I'm just going to work through the dash and show you what I've got here. This is a ScanStrut phone holder. So your phone these days, it really is part of the technology you're using all the time. Not just for communication, you've got apps on there that you're using for your fishing, you're getting weather. So it's in a position, nice and shaded there, where it's great to display, where I can operate my phone. But boom, look at that. While it's on that holder, it's charging. So it's also a charging dock, and they are made for marine. Obviously, I've got the big boys, Furuno TZ Touch 4. These are the XL screens. The resolution on them is incredible. I'm going to come back to these because this is where a lot of the cool stuff is packed in. I've got my zip wakes, and they're here because when I am making adjustments, they're at arm's reach, nice and easy to use. Right in the eye line is my Yamaha gauges, and then over here, this is the display for the Victron energy system that I've got on this boat. So my battery setup is high quality lead acid batteries for my start batteries, but for my house battery, which is the stuff that's running all of the gear on this boat. When you think of the big pumps we've got for tuna tubes, live bait tanks, pie warmer, all of these electronics, when the sound is cranked up, when I'm sounding in 700 meters of water, there is a lot of current draw. And that is where lithium, as we all know by now, has got a lot more reserve amps. I have 400 amp hours. So we can see I'm getting 6.6 amps of solar yield right now. I've got the flexible solar panel on the roof. So that's topping my batteries up at the moment, but we can also see over here what's going out. I've got 20 amps going out. I've got my Starlink running at the moment. I've got my PepWave running at the moment, things that I'm going to talk about, which have been a game changer. I've obviously got my screens running. I've got the pie warmer going, and it tells me that I've got 96% juice in my battery. And at the rate that I'm discharging at the moment, I've got 23 hours of battery life with everything that I've got running. If I start my engines and that charge starts coming off the engines, I'll actually be starting to actually make power, and that 96% will just build itself up until we top the batteries up. I can see what's coming from my solar, I can see what's coming from my alternator, and I can see where my battery level is, and more importantly, how long it's going to last. The Victron energy system, once it's been set up, basically, you really don't have to do anything. It just looks after itself. Over here next to it, I've got the gauges for the Yamaha Houndmaster. Up above here, I've got my Fusion head unit. Of course, that's powering. You've got a couple of speakers up the front here, which I can separate from the back ones. I tend to blast at the ones at the back a little bit, particularly if, you know, there's a bit of shit chat coming from the back from the boys. My Furuno VHF radio. It is equipped with AIS. Now, if we move our attention down a little bit further, this is the first boat that I've ever had with digital switching, which means I can change any one of these things to operate anything. For instance, at the moment I've got nav lights, anchor light. I hit that and it turns the nav and the anchor lights on. I can combine 2 or 3 things onto one switch. And I haven't just got this panel. I've also got other digital switching. So I've got switches here on the pillar, I've got switches on the port side pillar, and right down the back near the bait station. They're all in areas which are easily accessible, and I'm likely to be wanting to turn things on and off. In boats gone by, everything would be switched at the front, and the location of that switch would be fixed. Now, after using the boat, if I decide I want to move some switches around, I can do that. No wires have to be moved, it's just a change in the programming of it. So I can have control over my lights at the back. Basically anything that I've got on the boat, I can have controlled from anywhere. Or I could combine the courtesy lights, the baitboard lights, the walk around lights, and the deck lights in blue, program them into one switch called deck fishing, for instance. So it is flexible, and so I'm not locked into where all my switching is. And both of my TZ Touch screens, I just swipe from the right, I go C-Zone Control, and I've got a list here of all the things that I can turn on and off. You can see the stereo's on at the moment, underwater lights are on. I can just off on anything around the boat. Now, another nifty thing about this controlling, so winch up, let go and it stops. Whereas your lights or your pumps, the things that will stay on, you turn them on, they stay on. So good. Okay, I'm just heading out of the bay at the moment, and before we get out into a little bit deeper water and start going over some structure so I can show you the sounding capability, you can start taking a look at the charts. Now, of course, these screens are touch screens. With touch screens, particularly when you're fishing, you can get fingerprints, and they don't work as good if you've got wet hands. Most of the time when I'm operating my screen, I'm using the mouse. I've got a trackball which I operate with my thumb. I can scroll in and out with my zoom in an instant. And a really cool little thing, if I just click that button there, I'm now operating the opposite screen. It's just a off-the-shelf Wi-Fi mouse, and boom, I can operate both screens just like you've seen me do there in a jiffy. So we're just going to start with a chart plotter. I knew I shouldn't have turned the sounder on. Look, there's a stack of fish there. So I've got to pretend that I've not seen those fish to go back and try and catch them, because we're talking about the chart plotter at the moment. There is a lot going on with the charts. So the first thing you might notice when you look at these charts is the shading and the level of detail. This is actual scan data. So you can go into 3D and you can have an actual look at the structure and how it's formed. You can see us moving around here and you can get a visual representation. Wow, I've never actually looked at how steep that bank was along there. Now, when we look at the shading, and while we've got these contour lines up, sometimes there can be too much detail and it can almost be distracting. I like it dialed back so I don't have too many contour lines, but when I'm really trying to suss an area out, I really kind of tweak it up and I get a little bit more detail. And bear in mind, I'm not going to be able to show you everything right now. If you keep watching Ultimate Fishing TV, I'm going to be using all of these features when we're actually out catching fish rather than just demonstrating like I am now. Depth shading. This is really cool. You can turn it on. When we turn on depth shading, it gives us a color scale. Turns out too much color wigs me out. Cool feature, some people like it. Me, I just have it off because I'm just so used to this bathy vision, and I've fished the Bay of Islands for a long time, and I'm looking around these charts going, I didn't know that rock was there. I didn't know that bit of foul was there. That is incredible. So I was going to say I've got my sounder on this side, but actually my sounder could be on this side. These screens are interchangeable. They're essentially a network. So I can turn the sounder on over here as well. I could have two sounders if I want. I can go to a split screen, or I can actually design my own screen. So if I go create a new page, I could go something top and bottom. I could go, let's say I want a 3D view down the bottom. I want a 2D view up the top, two different sounders, because I have got two sounders on this boat, which I'm going to get to. Tick that, and look, just as quick as I did that, I've created a new screen. I've got my DFF3 sounder module up here, and you can see all of the fish and the incredible definition I've got. And down here, the 3D view. And you can see just with my finger, I can pan around. Now, I created that custom screen in a matter of seconds. And if I wanted to save this as one of my favorites, I hold that down and boom, this is now on my main menu, ready to go whenever I want it. But typically on this screen, I run my chart plotter, this side my sounding, and let's not forget, and we will get to it, I've got another screen out the back as well. So all of these charts and all of the detail, including your own marks, which you'll see on here, sync up with the app, the TZ iBoat app. So once you've got the app, as soon as you're on the same Wi-Fi network, and this boat has got its own Wi-Fi network, thanks to the guys at ENL setting that up. As soon as I get on the boat, if I've added any new marks, they appear on my phone. So I've always got a backup on my phone, and vice versa. I could be at home studying a map, put a new mark on my phone, I get on the boat, they sync up, and I've got the mark on my unit. Like I might want to put a mark there and go and fish it. I drop that mark there, or maybe a friend's given me coordinates. Look at that, that's just appeared on my plotter. They've synced up because we're on the same Wi-Fi network. And similarly the other way around, saying, well, I want to delete that. Boom, deletes from the app. Again, there's so much. I want to tell you more about that, but I'm going to move on to sounding. over here, we've just got a visual display, and you can just grab the screen and look back through your history. At the moment, it's running 105 kilohertz. My DFF3 transducer is a medium and low. I have no high frequency. I still have my 3D transducer as well, which is at 165 kilohertz, but I've just been getting such amazing results. And I mean, you can see here, of course I'm idling along, but we are gonna show you when I'm up doing 25 knots out in 100 meters of water, I'm marking fish and I'm getting this scale of clarity. Sorry, I'm getting distracted again. Look, I was looking at those little snappers there, but then I've seen some bigger ones coming along the bottom here. That definition is mind-blowing. I mean, well, I can actually see on the chart plotter here, we're just coming over this bank into this bit of a gut, and as we come over, look at these. They're just some nice, solid arch eyebrow snappers. Honestly, it has blown my mind. The same transducer, the same piece of hardware has essentially got two transducers inside it, and I can run them simultaneously. So why don't we have a look at that right now? So down the bottom here is the one that we were looking at before. This is my DFF3 running 105 kilohertz. The one at the top here, we're running 165 kilohertz, and this is on manual gain. Now, if I want to adjust the gain, I've got it set to 2-finger touch. There's no going into the menu to find a little dial, and I can keep it up on there. I can turn the gain up, I can turn the gain down, or I can swipe up from the bottom of the screen, and I can go to auto fishing. Now, just to explain to you what's going on here, this here, the one in the center, that is essentially what's underneath the boat right now. On the side here, that is showing what it would be like to have a boat that was 20 or 30 meters out that side, and this column here is what's showing as if we had a boat over there. I mean, look at this. Look at the clarity on that screen. I mean, it's not calm at the moment. We've got 15 knots of breeze. We've got a bit of slop. We're steaming along at 20 knots, and we've got a crystal clear display. Obviously, part of it is the Furuno technology, but a big part of it is the fairing that's been built to house my transducer. It's at the lowest point of the boat. It's right on the keel, and it's diverting water around, so I'm not getting any turbulence over the transducer. I'm marking bait fish shoals, I'm marking individual fish, and I'm cruising along at 20 knots on a sloppy sea, and I'm getting a picture like that. And there we go. There's a bit of bait fish there, marked while cruising along at 20 knots, and it looks like bait fish. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to touch them. Now I touch the screen, I put on a new point. Okay, I'm going to select the flag. Now I'm going to make my way back. Now those fish, they were up quite high. We've just raced over the top of them in rough conditions in a boat. They're bound to have scattered. They're not going to be sitting back where they were. So to help me find them as I make my way back, I'm just going to change the view. I'm going to keep our same view that we've got here, where I've got the bait marked. Now this here is the history. I've marked that bait there as well on the DFF3D, and already that tells me that they were thicker on my starboard side as I was coming through. So as I come back up here, I'm going to go across basically to the right of where that bait was, because I'm more likely to find them. To give us a better visual representation, I'm going to go to this view now so I can get a live view. So you guys are seeing what I'm seeing live. We've just come across where I marked them, and as I suspected, they've scattered. They might have gone deep. Chances are they're somewhere in this area, and I'm just scanning up, and look at that, I'm picking them up here now, and they're right underneath us. So I'm putting another point, and now I can see the direction that they've moved in. And there you go, they were to the right-hand side of that original mark. So I'm just going to come back up, and as soon as I've got them in that center beam, I'm going to go out and try and catch them. There they go, they're slightly to starboard, so I'm going to turn around to starboard now. I'm going to stop right here. On my way past, I'm hitting fish point, okay? Because obviously there's windy conditions. It would be difficult just to drive the boat and hold it over the fish if I was able to drive the boat. So we'll see how fish point can do it in these conditions. I'm looking, and there you go, I've hooked them up. There it is. There it is, that's how it works. And I'm holding over the shoal. I'm still able to look at the screen. I can see that they are underneath us. The fish point's holding us right over these fish. But look, we are essentially backing into the sea and it's bone dry, and that is the Stabicraft Game Chaser transom doing that. And they are the bait fish, or one of the bait fish that I marked doing 20 knots. And that there, my friends, is the system in full effect. And the next nifty thing you're gonna see is my custom-made little bait fish dehooker. Whammo, that's in my live bait tank. And what I just did then, we're gonna be doing it again in the morning, over and over again, and we're gonna be converting those little bait fish into bigger fish, but using all of that technology, putting it all together. Now you can see at the moment, we've got a decent sort of 1.8 metre swell, we've got a side wind, we've got all the current off of the Cape here. I mean, we're planing along quite comfortably, but look at this. That screen is still reading crystal clear. We've got a complete unbroken track at the bottom. We're still marking bits of bait fish down in 115 metres of water. And I'm going to expect, and look, we're marking bait right now, right down the bottom there. And I would expect that it will carry on like that out to 200 metres of water, even at this speed, even in these conditions. Well, it turns out I was wrong. Here we are doing 23 knots, and we are out in 618 metres of water, still marking the bottom. I'm just going to flick it onto this view because it's really cool, and this may help you understand what's going on with our DFF 3D. Our red dots here is how we're representing fish, and it'll give you an idea of where they are. Now we see that there's a little hump on the bottom here, a little rock. We've got a couple of fish sitting above it. We've marked a couple of rocks there that aren't showing on the chart, but if we want to scan our own data and get some real detail, it's a simple swipe from the right, PBG recording. I turn that on, and now as we're moving along, we are recording what is underneath us, and that data is being written onto the chart. We're going from not having really much, being able to see much at all there, to all of a sudden we're drawing all new contour lines on this map that were not there before. Look at that. I'm marking a couple of humps there, we can see on the 3D view, and that's that hump there that's been drawn onto the chart. I now have a new rock on my chart, and that's a real-time example. We're in pretty much a flat, featureless area here at the moment. Well, actually, while we're heading this way, there is another component to all of this, which I haven't looked at yet, which is the radar. Okie doke, so I'm just brought up my radar. You'll see it's scanning around now. So, in fact, the radar has picked up 39 boats that are around me, and it is locked onto them. So now, we've got this yacht coming in on our starboard side here, and it's already brought up that there's going to be a potential collision zone in front of us. I want to have a closer look. I just zoom in. In earlier versions, you would have to acquire a boat and kind of work out yourself whether you're going to collide. You just saw there in real time that the Furuno identified that boat. There's potential for a collision here, and it's highlighted its course. And it's even giving an intercept trail at the moment. So I'm just turning away from that yacht, of course. We don't want to have any kind of collision. But I can now touch it that I've acquired it, and I know that that yacht there is doing 4.4 knots. Its course over ground is 210 degrees, and it is 71 meters from me. Now, because I've acquired it, it's also showing up on this side. I've got my AIS targets, and I've got my radar targets come up. And the reason that they've come up is because when we go into our overlays, you'll see that I've got AIS targets and ARPA targets. Now, the ARPA targets are the boats that have been picked up and identified as boats by the radar. It's great for collision avoidance, like we've just seen, of course, navigating at night. And radar is always better than the data on your chart plotter because it's real time. And in fact, let's do that now. Let's turn the radar overlay on, and we're going to be able to see a real-time illustration of how accurate our charts are. So now that we've got our radar overlaying the top of our chart, it's actually showing us that the GPS image where the land is actually pretty accurate, but it's not 100% accurate. Now, I'm not sure how well that's showing up here, but the chart is saying that there's actually clear water through here, really close, but it's not quite, because the radar is saying there's actually hard land there. There's a bit of a rocky outcrop there. Now, the lesson in there is whether you have a radar or not, don't swear by what your chart plotter is telling you, because it can change day to day or hour to hour depending on the triangulation of the satellites. Now, another thing that I use the radar for is finding birds, and with this particular unit it couldn't be easier. Now it's going to turn bird mode on. Now instantly we get a little bit more clutter, and that's because it's scanning in a lot more detail for birds. Now a moment ago I showed you how we can acquire a boat as an ARPA target and track that boat. We can do the same with a bird. The scenario is you're out, everything's dead, you turn bird radar mode on, you start tracking some birds, you see which direction they're going to be going towards the feed. You go there, you find them working using the DFF 3D with the side scan. You can mark a school of bait fish out to the side of you, you go over it and you catch the big predator that's there. That is the scenario. I've done exactly that before on previous boats. Watch these lures. Now I'm looking forward to showing you examples as I get to know all of this tech in here, because once I've got all of this dialed in, and as you can see it's pretty easy, the fish are in big trouble. All of the awesomeness of the Fruno isn't just limited to the two big XL screens up the front. Of course, I've got another unit which is independent in its own right, but it's also looped into the network. It's got a rotor key. I'm a big fan of the manual rotor key, but typically when I'm out here, I'm really interested in what's happening underneath me. High definition, I drop a lure or something over the side, I can see it going down. But if I also want to be looking at what's going on my chart plotter and my DFF 3D up front, because those screens are so big and bright, I can actually see them just fine from here. But I've also got full control of them just from here. So you can see there, I'm zooming in on my chart plotter, and if I want to know what's going on the other screen, I can just switch control of the screen. As you can see, I'm zooming in just to see what I'm marking out to the side of me there. And then we can also control stuff from my phone with the TZ iBoat app. And I can take this anywhere on the boat with me, taking a look at a display of what's going on in real time on my phone, because it's all on the same Wi-Fi network. And when I talk about the Wi-Fi network coming off of my Pepwave to connect to the internet, Wi-Fi, get a mojo in you. You see that's the name of the Wi-Fi network here. It's basically getting a cellular signal, boosting it, turning it into a Wi-Fi network, so you can just use it however you'd use Wi-Fi. Now when I'm too far out or in an area with bad cell, I can use the Starlink account. I can stream live sport when I'm out fishing. I can download all my weather, SSTs, and of course I can just stay in touch with whatever I'm doing, because I'm on a trailer boat that has got high-speed internet. How good? Okay, now there's something else that I've got to show you, and that is Time Zero. Now this just comes pre-installed with this TZ Touch multi-function display. But if I swipe up from the bottom of the screen and look at my options, I'm going to say download weather. I'm actually going to download a big juicy map that takes in all of the top of the North Island all the way down to Great Barrier Island weather. Now I just hit download. Up here, I've also got a slider to select how many days weather forecast that you're downloading. So I'm downloading the next 3 days, because let's say I'm only going to be out for the next 3 days, and I've got everything turned on. I've got wind, air temperature, clouds and rain, pressure, humidity, waves, and on it goes. I've got chlorophyll at the moment is selected. This has given me a visual representation of chlorophyll, and it's color scaled. Basically, the bluer the water, the cleaner the water, greener it is the more chlorophyll in the water. Now, and I'm not going to go into a big lesson on this because we got it all covered on Ultimate Fishing. What we're looking for is areas where there's nice clean water that the predators like, pushing up into chlorophyll. Now, if I'm looking out here to the east of Cape Breton at the moment, I can see that there's some pretty clean water, very clean out here, pushing in a finger up against some chlorophyll. That's going to give me a clue of where I might want to go fishing. I can look at the sea surface height, sea surface temperature. Now, if I want more detail on that, I simply touch the screen, and it's telling me at that point out there that I'm interested in, it's 22.1 degrees out there at the moment. We go, oh, I'm interested in this area. What's the weather going to be out there tomorrow? Well, we are going to have 0.6 knot of a current. We've got the current direction. We've got the wind gusts, 2.4 knot wind gusts. And this is remember, this is all overlaying straight over the top of our chart, so we know exactly where it's happening. We've got a southeasterly current. We can look at the waves. So that's just a simple touch on wave height, and we get this graphical illustration of where the waves is coming from. And look at that, the wind swirls around tomorrow evening at about 7 p.m. And this is what the next 3 days wind looks like. And I can go up to 15 days, but of course, as you go on, you can continue to just keep downloading it and refreshing the data and getting more up-to-date data. I have not had a lesson on this, and from what I've just seen just then, I'm pretty excited about the power that's captured in here, and going fishing tomorrow with that clean water pushing in, that hot patch, and that blue water pushing up against the chlorophyll. Woo! Cool, eh? Well, here's where we take a look at the trailer and the trailer setup, because trailering for trailer boats, well, it's a big part of it, right? And I'm with the Hoskins trailer again. I've been with them a long time. Just because of the build quality, they're all Kiwi made, and because they just do the job. And so I'm just gonna run you through the setup. I've gone wobble rollers, and that's all about making the boat roll off easily and come on easily and center itself when I'm driving on. These, look at this, a guard that you can stand on. People are putting plastic guards on trailers. Fact is, when you want to get in your boat, you're going to climb on the guard, so they're nice and strong. I've gone for open spoke alloys again. Yeah, they look cool, but it's all about getting that hose in there and squirting them out. Because you'll see I've got the full stainless steel rotors. All 4 wheels are braked with the braking system. And just a little mod here, we've drilled out the caps that go over the bearings. That's because no matter what cap you put on there, they're gonna get some salt water in there and you want it to be able to come out. So just when I'm doing my wash down, I do squirt inside those holes, let the water out. I've gone for the walkboard on this one because when I'm beach launching, just makes it easier for your mate. There's a number of different post configurations and options that Hoskins offer you. They've got posts that take an electric and a manual for a backup. I've just gone for the straight manual. And in those instances where I'm beach launching, I'm not doing the winching anyway. I'm in the boat, my mate's doing it. This box here, you'll see it's nice and elevated. This has got all the electronics in it. It's got the battery and all the brains for the electronic braking system. You can adjust how much braking tension goes on. Real easy to use, haven't let me down. And a nice little touch, you can just plug your battery charger straight in. Down here, you can flush the trailer out. You've got hose fittings. Clip your hose on, just like you flush your motor, clip it in. It washes the trailer frame out from the inside, because there's always going to be water that gets inside the frame. Got a bracket here for a spare wheel. We've got the main frame sitting on top of the drawbar. You can see just the extra plating and gussets here to make it nice and strong. So yes, it's strong, but the main reason is most tow vehicles these days have a lower tow ball. Lower center of gravity makes sense, right? So that keeps the tow bar level, which gives you better balanced towing. But then by lifting the main frame up on top, it gives us our incline to make the boat come on and off a whole lot easier. So you can just tell these guys are thinking about how to build a good quality trailer that makes your trailering easier. And what I can say about towing this thing around, which is coming in at around 3 ton, is it just tows beautifully. And yeah, it tows like a breeze. A big part of that is I'm towing it with a 300 series Land Cruiser, but I do tow it with my Hilux, and it tows beautifully behind the Hilux as well. So there you go, that's my Hoskins trailer. Stoked with it. Now let's get back out to the water and look at more of the juicy stuff on the boat. Go big, go big. Yeah, slow down. ITM Fishing Live. Here he is, oh shit. This fish hasn't fought and this is about to get hectic. Oh, here we go, we're gonna see it. Yeah, that's all right. There he is! Oh, yeah! Woo! It's a real one, Well, that has been a whole lot of stuff to get through for this boat. My 2350 Stabicraft, the Swordfish Mojo 2. Of course, keep an eye on Ultimate Fishing TV because we're going to be using this boat a whole lot more and showing you even more detail in the action of fishing. All kinds of fishing, from riding close to way out deep, And of course, not just this boat. I've got my little small boat, Te Honki, and well, you know me, land-based fishing, all kinds of fishing, and you don't necessarily need a whole lot of technology to catch fish. As you've seen, we can catch some pretty cool fish on hand lines, out of dugout canoes, and we've got it all here for you to watch for free at ultimatefishing.tv.